Carefully. What I'm about to tell you could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about your largest investment, your nest egg, your financial future. And right now in this market, there are 3 states in this country where you should absolutely not, under any circumstances, buy a house. I don't care how good the deal looks. I don't care what your real estate agent is telling you. These markets are toxic, and I'm going to explain exactly why. Now, before I get into the specifics, I need you to do something for me. If you care about your money, if you care about building wealth, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. Become a member of this community. We're building something here, a group of people who actually understand how money works, who aren't going to fall for the nonsense that's out there. So do it now, because this information is worth more than any financial advisor is going to charge you. Here's what you need to understand. Real estate is not about emotions. It's not about loving a kitchen or a backyard. Real estate is about one thing and one thing only: return on investment. Can you make money? Will this asset appreciate? Can you get your cash out when you need it? Those are the only questions that matter. And in these 3 states I'm about to show you, the answer to all of those questions is a resounding no. I've been investing in real estate for over 30 years. I've made millions in this sector. I've also watched people lose their shirts because they didn't do their homework. They bought based on hope instead of data. They listened to their hearts instead of their spreadsheets. That's not how you build wealth. You build wealth by following the numbers. And right now, the numbers in these states are screaming at you to stay away. Let me tell you what's happening in the market right now. We're seeing a massive shift. Interest rates, property taxes, insurance costs, they're all going in the wrong direction. But it's not hitting every state equally. Some markets can absorb these pressures, others cannot. And the 3 states I'm going to talk about today, they're in the danger zone. They're the Titanic, and you're about to buy a first-class ticket. Now let's get into the first state you need to avoid. I'm talking about California. Yes, California. I know what you're thinking. California has always been expensive. California has always had high taxes. That's true. But what's happening now is different. We've crossed a threshold where the fundamentals no longer make sense for the average buyer. Here's the problem with California. You've got median home prices that are completely detached from median incomes. In most healthy markets, a home should cost roughly 3 to 4 times your annual household income. In California, we're looking at 8, 9, sometimes 10 times income. That's not a market. That's a bubble waiting to pop. And when it pops, you're going to be left holding an asset you can't sell. But it gets worse. California has the highest state income tax in the nation. We're talking 13.3% at the top bracket. So you're already paying a fortune just to live there. Then you add property taxes, which despite Proposition 13 are still substantial when you factor in the purchase price. Then you've got insurance. Homeowners insurance in California has become a nightmare. Major carriers are pulling out of the state entirely because of wildfire risk. Do you know what that means? It means the cost of insuring your home is going through the roof, if you can even get coverage at all. Let me break this down for you in terms of cash flow, because that's what matters. Let's say you buy a home in California for $1 million. That's not even a mansion anymore. That's a basic 3-bedroom in many markets. You put 20% down, so you're financing $800,000. At current interest rates, you're looking at a monthly mortgage payment of around $6,000. Add in property taxes, another $2,000 a month. Insurance, if you can get it, another $1,000. Maintenance, HOA fees, we're talking $9,000 to $10,000 a month just to own that property. That's $120,000 a year. Now, can you rent that property for $120,000 a year? Absolutely not. You'd be lucky to get $70,000 or $80,000 in rent. So right there, you're losing $40,000 to $50,000 a year in negative cash flow. That's not an investment. That's a money pit. You're subsidizing someone else's lifestyle with your own capital. And here's the kicker. California has rent control laws that are getting stricter. They've capped annual rent increases. So even if your costs are going up, your ability to raise rents is limited by law. You're stuck. You can't increase your revenue, but your expenses keep climbing. That's a recipe for disaster. But let's say you're not buying as an investment property. You're buying to live there. Okay, fine. But you still need to think about liquidity. What happens when you need to sell? What happens when you need to move for a job or your family situation changes? In a healthy market, you can sell your home in 30 to 60 days. In California, we're starting to see inventory pile up. Homes are sitting on the market for months, and when homes sit, prices drop. So not only are you overpaying to get in, you're going to take a loss to get out. California is also facing a massive exodus. We've seen the data. People are leaving. Businesses are leaving. They're going to Texas, Florida, Tennessee, places where the cost of doing business actually makes sense. When you have net negative migration, that puts downward pressure on housing demand. Less demand means lower prices. It's economics 101. Now, I'm not saying California is going to turn into a ghost town. It's still got great weather. It's still got the Pacific Ocean. It's still got Silicon Valley. But those things don't change the math. And the math says you're going to lose money. The question isn't if, it's how much. So unless you have money to burn and you just want to live in California for lifestyle reasons, knowing full well you're making a bad financial decision, then don't do it. Take your capital somewhere where it can actually work for you. And this is just the first state. The next two are going to shock you even more, because one of them used to be the darling of real estate investors. Used to be. Not anymore. The landscape has changed, and if you don't adapt, you're going to get crushed. Let me tell you what's happening in the second state you need to avoid. The second state I'm telling you to avoid is Florida. Now, I know this is going to upset people. Florida has been the hottest real estate market in America for the past few years. Everyone and their brother has been moving to Florida. No state income tax, warm weather, beaches. It sounds like paradise. But let me tell you something about paradise. It's expensive, and it's getting more expensive every single day in ways that are going to destroy your returns. Here's what nobody is talking about. Florida is facing an insurance apocalypse. I'm not exaggerating. The homeowners insurance market in Florida is collapsing. Multiple insurance companies have completely pulled out of the state. The ones that remain are charging premiums that are 3, 4, sometimes 5 times higher than they were just a few years ago, and it's only going to get worse. Why is this happening? 2 words, climate risk. Now, I'm not here to debate climate change. I don't care about the politics. I care about the money. And the insurance companies, they care about the money too. They're looking at the data. They're seeing more frequent hurricanes, more severe storms, more flooding, and they're saying we cannot profitably insure properties in this state anymore. When insurance companies, the people whose entire business model is calculating risk, when they're running away from a market, that should tell you everything you need to know. Let me give you some real numbers. The average homeowner's insurance premium in Florida is now over $4,000 a year, but that's just the average. If you're in a coastal area, if you're in a flood zone, you could be paying $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 a year just for insurance. And that's if you can even get private insurance. Many homeowners are being forced into the state-backed Citizens Property Insurance, which is underfunded and vulnerable to collapse in a major hurricane season. On top of that, you've got flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, which is also raising rates dramatically. So you're stacking insurance policies just to protect your asset, and those costs are eating away any potential appreciation you might see in the property value. Now let's talk about property taxes. Florida loves to advertise that they have no state income tax. That's true, but they make up for it in other ways. Property taxes in Florida are not cheap, especially when you factor in the rising home values. And here's the thing about Florida property taxes. They can increase significantly when you buy a property because you lose the Save Our Homes cap that the previous owner had. So the tax bill you see when you're buying might not be the tax bill you'll actually pay. But the real problem with Florida is what I call the insurance death spiral. Here's how it works. Insurance costs go up. That makes homes more expensive to own. That reduces demand from buyers because the total cost of ownership is too high. Lower demand means home prices stagnate or fall. When prices fall, people go underwater on their mortgages. When people are underwater, they walk away. When people walk away, you get foreclosures. Foreclosures drive prices down even further. And around we go. We're already seeing the early signs of this. Inventory in Florida is rising. Homes are taking longer to sell. Price cuts are becoming more common. The smart money is already getting out. They made their money in the run-up, and now they're selling to the greater fool. Don't be the greater fool. And let's talk about hurricanes for a second, not from an emotional standpoint, but from a financial one. Every time a major hurricane hits Florida, it's not just the homes that get destroyed that lose value. It's every home in the region. Why? Because buyers get scared. Insurance becomes even more expensive or unavailable. And the recovery process takes years. Years where your property is worth less, where you can't rent it, where you're hemorrhaging money. I've seen investors buy beautiful properties in Florida thinking they're going to rent them out for vacation income. Great plan. Until a hurricane comes through and now you've got a property you can't rent, insurance that won't pay out quickly, and a mortgage you still have to pay every month. That's not a business. That's a liability. Florida also has another problem that people don't talk about: overdevelopment. They're building everywhere. New construction is popping up all over the state. And basic economics tells you that when you increase supply without a corresponding increase in demand, prices fall. Florida's population growth is slowing down. The migration surge we saw during the pandemic, that's cooling off. People are realizing that the total cost of living in Florida, when you add up insurance, property taxes, and the general cost of everything, isn't actually that much cheaper than other states. So you've got rising supply, cooling demand, skyrocketing insurance costs, and climate risk. That is not a recipe for making money in real estate. That's a recipe for losing your shirt. Florida was a great trade 3, 4, 5 years ago. It is not a good trade today. The risk reward is completely out of balance. Your downside is massive and your upside is limited. That's a bad bet, and I don't make bad bets. Now let's talk about the third state. And this one is going to surprise a lot of people because it's been marketed as the promised land for real estate investors. I'm talking about Texas. Yes, Texas. The state with no income tax, business-friendly policies, massive job growth. It sounds perfect. But here's what the cheerleaders aren't telling you. Texas has serious structural problems that are going to bite you. First, property taxes. Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. They don't have a state income tax, so they fund everything through property taxes. We're talking effective rates of 2 to 3% of your home's value every single year. Let's do the math. You buy a $500,000 home in Texas. You're paying $10,000 to $15,000 a year in property taxes. That's more than you'd pay in many states that do have income tax. And here's the kicker. Those property tax bills keep going up. Texas has been reassessing property values aggressively, and homeowners are seeing their tax bills jump by 20, 30, even 40% in a single year. There are limits on how much they can raise taxes on your primary residence. But if you're buying as an investment, those protections don't apply. You're fully exposed. Second problem, the Texas power grid. We saw what happened during the winter storm. The entire grid nearly collapsed. People were without power for days in freezing temperatures. And it's not just winter. In the summer, they have rolling blackouts because the grid can't handle the demand. When you have an unreliable power grid, that's a risk to property values. Businesses start to think twice about locating there. Residents start to think twice about moving there. And when confidence drops, so do prices. Third, let's talk about the Texas housing market specifically. It's overheated. Prices have run up dramatically over the past few years, driven by that migration from California and other high-tax states. But we're starting to see the market cool. Inventory is rising, days on market are increasing, builders have gone crazy putting up new developments everywhere. And when you flood the market with supply, prices stabilize or fall. Austin, Dallas, Houston, these markets all saw explosive growth. But that growth is slowing. The tech companies that were moving to Austin, some of them are reconsidering. Remote work policies are changing. The factors that drove people to Texas are shifting. And when the narrative changes, the market changes. Here's another thing about Texas that people don't consider: water. Texas has serious water supply issues, especially in the fast-growing areas. Droughts are becoming more common. Water restrictions are being implemented. When you have a growing population and a shrinking water supply, that's a long-term problem. It might not hit today or tomorrow, but it will hit. And when it does, it's going to affect property values. Texas also has a corporate franchise tax and other business taxes that eat into returns if you're holding property in an LLC or corporation. The tax structure is more complicated than people realize. You're not getting the tax haven that's advertised. So let me summarize what we're looking at with these three states. California, unaffordable with negative cash flow and net migration out. Florida, insurance crisis and climate risk that will destroy your equity. Texas, sky-high property taxes and an overheated market that's cooling fast. These are not places where you make money in real estate right now. These are places where you lose money. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Kevin, if I can't buy in California, Florida, or Texas, where am I supposed to invest? Those are three of the biggest states in the country. And you're right, they are. But here's the thing about investing. You don't need to be in the biggest markets. You need to be in the right markets. You need to be where the fundamentals make sense, where the numbers work, where you can actually make money. Let me tell you about the markets I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the Midwest. I'm looking at the Southeast, but not Florida. I'm looking at markets that nobody's talking about on social media. Why? Because they're boring. They don't have beaches. They don't have palm trees. But you know what they do have? Cash flow, affordability, sustainable growth. And that's what makes money. Places like Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, North Carolina, Tennessee, away from the hot spots, these are markets where you can still buy a property for $200,000, $300,000. You can rent it out and actually cover your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, and still have cash left over at the end of the month. That's a real investment. That's how you build wealth. Here's my investment criteria, and I want you to write this down. Number one, the property must cash flow from day one. I don't care about appreciation. I don't care about what you think it might be worth in 5 years. If it doesn't cash flow today, I'm not buying it. Number two, total cost of ownership, mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance must be covered by rental income with at least a 10% cushion. Number three, the property must be in a market with job growth and population growth. People need to be moving in, not moving out. Number four, insurance costs must be stable and predictable. I'm not gambling on what insurance might cost 3 years from now. Number five, property taxes must be reasonable and not subject to wild fluctuations. And number six, I must be able to sell the property within 90 days if I need to. Liquidity matters. If you can't get your money out when you need it, then it's not an investment, it's a trap. When I apply those criteria to California, Florida, and Texas, they all fail. Every single one of them. They fail on cash flow. They fail on cost predictability. They fail on risk management. That's why I'm telling you to stay away. But let's say you're not an investor. Let's say you just want to buy a home to live in. You've got a job in one of these states. What do? Here's my advice. Rent. Rent for now. I know everyone tells you that renting is throwing money away. That's garbage. Renting is not throwing money away if the alternative is buying an overpriced asset that's going to lose value. Think about it this way. Let's say you rent instead of buy in California. You save yourself $200,000, $300,000 on a down payment. You take that money, you invest it in a diversified portfolio, stocks, bonds, maybe some real estate investment trusts in better markets. Over time, that money grows. Meanwhile, the person who bought that overpriced house in California, they're losing money every month on negative cash flow. They're stressed about insurance. They're stressed about taxes. And when they go to sell, they're going to take a loss. Who made the better financial decision? The renter who invested their capital wisely. That's who. Don't let pride or social pressure push you into a bad investment. Your home is not just a place to live. It's a financial decision, and it should be treated like one. Now, if you absolutely must buy in one of these states, here's what you do. You buy the smallest, cheapest property you can tolerate. You put down as little as possible, and you plan your exit strategy before you even close. You need to know how you're going to get out, because you will need to get out. This is not a long-term hold. This is a short-term necessity that you're minimizing your exposure to. But here's what I really want you to take away from this. Real estate is not a guaranteed path to wealth. It never was. The people who make money in real estate are the people who do their homework, who understand the markets, who follow the numbers, and who are willing to walk away from a bad deal even if it means missing out on the action. Right now, everyone's afraid of missing out. They see prices going up, they see people making money, and they think they need to get in before it's too late. That's exactly the wrong mentality. That's how you lose money. The best investors I know, they're patient. They wait for the right opportunity. They don't chase. And right now, the right opportunity is not in California, not in Florida, and not in Texas. I want to talk about something else that's happening in the real estate market that nobody's addressing: the commercial real estate crisis. We've got office buildings sitting empty because of remote work. We've got retail spaces that will never be filled again because of online shopping. And all of that commercial real estate debt, it's starting to go bad. Banks are sitting on huge losses that they haven't recognized yet. Why does this matter for residential real estate? Because when banks get hit with losses in commercial real estate, they tighten lending standards for everything. That means it gets harder to get a mortgage. That means fewer buyers in the market. Fewer buyers means lower prices. This is all connected. We're heading into a period where real estate is going to be challenging. Not impossible, but challenging. And the people who survive and thrive are going to be the people who are conservative, who are smart, who are picky about where they invest. The people who go rushing into California, Florida, and Texas right now because they're afraid of missing out, they're going to be the ones who get hurt. I've lived through multiple real estate cycles. I was investing in real estate during the savings and loan crisis. I was investing during the financial crisis. I know what happens when markets turn. And I'm telling you right now, we are at a turning point. The easy money has been made. What comes next is going to separate the smart investors from the gamblers. So here's my final message to you. Protect your capital. Be patient. Wait for the right deal in the right market. Don't let anyone pressure you into buying something that doesn't make financial sense. Your money is your freedom. When you tie it up in a bad asset, you lose that freedom. You become a slave to that property, to that mortgage, to those expenses. I need you to do something for me right now. If this information was valuable to you, if it potentially saved you from making a massive financial mistake, I need you to subscribe to this channel. Click that button. Become a member. We're building a community here of people who actually understand money, who don't fall for the hype, who make decisions based on data and analysis. Leave a comment below. Tell me, were you thinking about buying in one of these states? Did this video change your mind? I want to hear from you. I want to know what markets you're looking at. Let's have a real conversation about real estate investing. And if you're serious about building wealth, if you want to learn more about how to analyze real estate deals, how to find the right markets, how to structure your investments for maximum return and minimum risk, then you need to become a member of this community. We go deeper. We share more detailed analysis. We look at specific markets and specific deals. This is not about fear-mongering. This is not about telling you the sky is falling. This is about being smart with your money. This is about recognizing when a market has gotten ahead of itself and having the discipline to sit on the sidelines until the opportunity is right. Real estate can be an incredible wealth-building tool. I've made millions in real estate, but I've also avoided losing millions by knowing when not to buy. That's the skill that matters. It's not about always being in the market. It's about being in the market at the right time in the right place. California, Florida, Texas. Avoid them. Wait for better opportunities. Protect your capital. And remember, the person who preserves their wealth during the bad times is the person who has the ammunition to buy when everyone else is selling. That's when the real money is made. Don't be the person who buys at the top and sells at the bottom. Be the person who waits, who watches, who strikes when the time is right. That's how you win in real estate. That's how you win in business. That's how you win in life. Subscribe now, join this community, and let's build wealth together the smart way. Thanks.